Okay, quick poll. Who here likes boats? See, I think about it two different ways. I love being on the water, but what's a single vessel compared to the massive ocean? In this video, we're talking about the 10 most mysterious abandoned ships. It's going to be a spooky list, so let us know if you have any ideas as to what could have happened on these ships. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to The Supreme, and click the notification bell for more lit content. Let's get rolling. SS America. Take a look at this abandoned ship. It ran aground off the coast of Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands, and despite years of decay, it's still visible at low tide. It turns out that the ship is the historic SS America. Christened by First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and launched in 1939, the SS America was intended to be a luxury cruise liner, but in the end, she was dogged by scandal, mutiny, and bad fortune. The extravagant vessel was only in service for a short amount of time before being commandeered for wartime use by the United States Navy. In 1978, the ship was involved in a scandal. Then owned by Venture Cruise Lines, $99 cruises from Manhattan out to the ocean were oversold to passengers. People showed up for promised luxury, only to find that there weren't enough cabins. Those who were lucky enough to have cabins had to deal with sewage backups in their rooms. Gross. The passengers started a riot, and 250 jumped ship on tugboats and rowed to Staten Island. Tabloids jumped on the squalid disaster, bringing the ship's reputation into disgrace. It was later sold on to another company, but it never saw the glory days it was intended to have when it was built. The ship became wrecked in 1994 and was left to decay in the water. Mary Celeste. The mystery of the Mary Celeste is one of the most enduring maritime enigmas of all time. The ship was launched in Canada as Amazon in 1861, but was renamed Mary Celeste in 1869. She had an eventful start to her seafaring career, but a very dramatic end. In 1872, veteran sailor Captain Briggs was in charge of sailing the ship from New York to Gibraltar. Briggs, his wife, 7 crew, and a cargo of alcohol were set to make fine passage to Europe. But the Mary Celeste was found floating and abandoned between the Azores and Portugal in December 1872. The sails were in a bad way and the ship's course was erratic, which led to Captain Morehouse of the Dei Gratia ship sailing out to her and climbing aboard. Captain Briggs, his wife, and the whole crew were gone. Personal items were still on board, as were food rations and the ship's logbook, which had been written 9 days earlier and contained no explanation or alarm. There was no evidence of violence or disaster. If anything, it appeared as if the captain and crew had fled in an orderly manner. The derelict ship was towed, but the people aboard were never seen or heard from again. The story doesn't end there either. The Mary Celeste was renovated and relaunched, only to be deliberately wrecked 13 years later as part of an insurance fraud. What happened in 1872 is still a mystery, but there are plenty of theories circulating. The more realistic include natural disaster, bad weather, pirates, or alcohol fumes rising from the cargo hold. The wilder theories suggest there could have been some paranormal goings-on, that or they fell foul of a giant mythical squid. North Korean ghost ships. Since 2011, hundreds of abandoned ships have been washing up in Japan. The circumstances of the mystery boat's arrivals are eerily similar. Vessels are either found floating aimlessly or run aground along the Japanese coastline. The amount of boats has been increasing each year. In 2011, 57 ghost ships were found. In 2017, there were 104 boats, and last year in 2019, there were 156 boats reported. Sometimes the vessels will show up with the remains of their crew on board, but some are mysteriously completely abandoned. Last year, it was reported that a headless crew had been found aboard a ghost ship. It's strongly suggested that the boats are coming from North Korea, although nobody knows why. Fishing is notoriously dangerous across the world, but especially so in the Hermit Nation, where equipment is thought to be poor and conditions said to be rough. The boats could also be from would-be defectors from the regime who failed to safely escape Kim Jong-un's rule. Or there could be another, more mystical reason. When it comes to abandoned ships, often the answers are lost at sea forever. The ghost ship of the Northumberland Strait. The Northumberland Strait is the body of water between New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island in Canada. Since 1786, there have been reports of a flaming ghost ship passing through the water. The ship is most frequently reported as a 3 or 4 mast schooner, and on several occasions, sailors have scrambled to rescue what they thought was a ship in trouble, only to see it disappear before their eyes. The phantom ship is so famous in Canada that it has even appeared on stamps. Local history expert Kathy Giles said, "Some people think that there might be a scientific explanation of what's happening out there, but there have also been many times the ship has been sighted by many people on the same night. Nobody has a real explanation for it." She also noted that the ship is often spotted at night before a storm and that it's most frequently spotted in October. There are plenty of folk songs about the mystery, and the area draws plenty of ghost hunting tourists. Carol A. Deering. In 1921, a 5-masted schooner was found abandoned and run aground off the coast of Cape Hatteras in North Carolina. The mystery of the ship has been closely linked with the bizarre goings-on of the Bermuda Triangle. The ship set sail from Virginia to Rio de Janeiro in August 1920 and returned to the USA some 5 months later under suspicious circumstances. 2 days before the ship was found run aground on the Diamond Shoals of Cape Hatteras, lighthouse keepers spotted the ship off the coast of North Carolina, and the crew signaled that they had lost their anchor. 48 hours later, the abandoned ship was found without a soul on board. The crew had vanished, as had their belongings and all of the ship's lifeboats. Nobody heard from them again. Perhaps a puzzle piece to be considered, the ship's captain, Captain W.B. Warmwell, was hastily recruited, which could suggest he was a shifty character. Other people think that the ship fell foul of rum bootleggers, and of course believe it had something to do with the so-called Devil's Triangle of Bermuda. The boat under the World Trade Center. In July 2010, nearly 9 years after 9/11, something weird was found below street level. As the rebuild effort took place to construct a new World Trade Center, a 32-foot-long ship hull was found buried 22 feet underground. How did a ship get below 2 city skyscrapers? Archaeologists on site were able to analyze the wood and determined that the ship was likely to have been built in 1773 near Philadelphia. Seriously, they got all that from wood. They could also tell that it once sailed the Caribbean and had suffered a shipworm infestation. The spot where the ship was found, the southern tip of Manhattan, may once have been underwater. Historians weren't sure if the ship had sunk by accident or it had been used as a landfill to boost the Manhattan coastline. Who the ship belonged to, its sailing history, and why exactly it met its demise is still unknown. Antikythera shipwreck. There are plenty of mysterious abandoned shipwrecks we don't know about yet. With many thousands of years of human history coming back before us, we only really know what we can see or read about. But new discoveries from the past are made all the time. In the year 1900, sponge divers at 150 feet down came across the wreck of a 2,000-year-old ship containing something very odd. The Antikythera shipwreck, named after the Greek island it was found off, was a Roman Empire vessel that sank in 70 BCE and contained a mysterious clockwork-like object, later called the Antikythera mechanism. The mechanism caused more intrigue than the ship itself, with historians unable to figure out what the sophisticated device was used for. It had the ability to predict 223 years of solar eclipses, which was strange, and it had gears and pointers, leading some to conclude it was a rudimentary computer. How the Romans had something so sophisticated on board is a constant topic for debate among historians. Oh, and a bronze arm was found down there as well. The houseboat. A Canadian houseboat somehow ended up on an Irish shore in 2016, having seemingly floated across the Atlantic. The hand-built eco-boat contained a message on the ceiling which read, "I, Rick Small, donate this structure to a homeless youth to give them a better life than Newfoundlanders choose not to do. No rent, no mortgage, no hydro. Rick Small." What a hero. Unfortunately, though, the boat was not being used as a home as he intended and somehow traveled from Canada to Ireland. Nobody was found on board, leading people to question if the vessel had ever been manned, or if it simply just got loose in North America and made its own way to Europe. Rick Small was a known Canadian environmentalist, but nobody had heard from him since 2015. It was believed that he had wanted to sail the Atlantic. Some years later, he was eventually tracked down in Vancouver, and that still doesn't answer the question of how the boat made it to Irish shores. High Aim 6. The High Aim was a Taiwanese ship found drifting off the coast of Western Australia on Halloween of 2010. When it was discovered, it was found flying an Indonesian flag. When authorities went to investigate, they found that all of the ship's crew was missing, despite no signs of any distress. Fuel, provisions, and personal items remained on board, which deepened the mystery. An aerial and naval search of the surrounding area failed to locate anyone or anything from the ship. Sometime later, it was reported that, miraculously, one crew member was actually found alive and well. They claimed that the ship's captain had been murdered, but failed to elaborate any further. KAZ 2. On April 18, 2007, an Australian surveillance helicopter spotted a vessel drifting 100 miles off the coast of Queensland near the Great Barrier Reef. The boat was a 30-foot catamaran with badly shredded sails. Rescue crews were scrambled, and what they found was deeply mysterious. The engine of the boat was still running. The anchor was up, life jackets were all in place and untouched, and weirdly, there was a laptop that was still powered up. Stranger still, the kitchen quarters were set up for a meal, with food and utensils placed on the table. A cup of coffee was found on the deck, and beds appeared to have been slept in. Aside from the damage to the sails, the boat looked to be in perfect condition. Once the boat had been identified, it became clear that 3 men had gone missing. James and Peter Tunstead and Des Baton were never seen again. GPS systems showed that the boat had veered dramatically off course at one point around the time of the suspected incident. So, what happened? We don't know. That was the 10 mysterious abandoned ships. Let us know if you have any ideas what could have happened to these boats. Maybe you have the answers. If so, we want to hear them.